Well, hello and welcome to the wrap. This is episode number 63. It is Thursday, September 28th, 2023. And I am Nathan Guerra, and Anna Russell sat next to me. This is the show wrapping up all things Zwift from the last week. It's racing, it's events, it's tech, it's fashion. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure to hit those follow buttons, subscribe, comment, do all those good things. You can also download this podcast after the live recording over at ZwiftCommunityLive.com on the podcast tab over there, or you can download it anywhere that you do get your podcast. Just search the wrap and Zwift, and it should come up real quickly. We're going to be chatting today about, well, the ZRL. We're going to be doing the TTT roundup on that. What's the best tactic? How did things play out? How are people coping with 4.1? Have there been some bugs discovered? Are they going to get fixed? Something about a public service announcement on gloves, and Anna, I'm not sure what that's about. ZGP course book has been released. We'll be talking about the courses. ZGP Zwift Grand Prix, the elite level of Zwift racing, those who might be new around here in these places. That's going to be, we're going to take a look at the courses as well as the formats, because the courses, well, yeah, they're there, but the formats on the courses is probably the more interesting point we're going to be diving into a little bit. Tour of Watopia and the full details of the Tour of Watopia have been released for the fall. It starts October 2nd for registration. Is open now, so we'll talk about that kind of stuff. And Coach's Corner, rest and recovery. Definitely going to be having a differentiation in that about the cycles of rest as well as quick methods to recovery a lot of people do use out there for competition. Talking about heart rate as well and sleeping and all that good stuff. And the workout of the week, Anna put it together, or she at least gave it to us. I don't know if it's hers or not, but sweaty and satisfied. That's What are we talking about working out? I don't know
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
talking about. What is I have
What are you
to
talking
read.
about?
I don't. And the jersey pick of the week is one of the best I've ever seen. I'm not kidding. Like, this is glitch click kit level. Drafting Dinos kit. We highlighted it a bunch on Tuesday as well because it was new in game and saw it in game on Tuesday during the ZRL. Super excited about that. So that's what we got today. But as always, first up, let's go and talk about what we've been up to in relationship to Zwifting and racing and riding our bikes. And I'm always going to shoot it at Anna first. Anna, how's it going?
It's going great. I feel like I'll be a repeat from last week where I was like, things are awesome. I feel fit. Had a great weekend away mountain biking with the kiddos, which was actually, I met one of my biggest like goals, which was there's like a family trail there and it's like 4 kilometers and we rode it with all the kids. So my 2-year-old was on my husband's bike, my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old were on their own bikes and we did the whole trail. So I was stoked. And then I went back with my oldest son and I ran it and he rode it next to me the whole way. Like it was amazing. Like just
Wow.
and beautiful redwood forest, just yeah, really good vibes. And I went out mountain biking myself for a couple of hours and found this. Like I'm not a technical mountain biker, so I was like kind of ambly going around going, where should I go? And they've built this new trail that goes around the whole sort of loop of the forest. It's like 40 kilometers. And it's just like this rolling, flowing, non-technical track, but fun, you know? So I don't have to worry about like routes and drop-offs and all that stuff, which I don't like. It's just fun. Like it was like a little roller coaster and good. Oh, it was just awesome. Like it was just perfect. So I want to go back pretty soon and ride that again.
It was a Santa Cruz. It was a trail bike. It looked to me like a trail bike
Oh,
from what I
okay.
saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sent me the information about
It's
it.
like a 51 something.
Yeah,
It was a number.
it
Yeah.
was definitely, it wasn't the Blur. I know it wasn't the Blur. It wasn't their
Okay.
XC monster, but it was definitely a cool looking trail bike. I don't know a lot about their trail bikes. Honestly, in the trail bike
What's a trail
downhill
bike?
space, I don't know a ton about those bikes because I'm such an XC focused dude. It'd be like,
Mm.
do I know all the things about, I don't know. It like trail and downhill is almost its own segment.
What's trail?
With it, it's like in between downhill and it's a bike that can go big hit, but it ain't gonna big hit real well, but it can go there and it can kind of do XC. If you want to race it, you can, but you ain't gonna compete at the highest level, kind of a thing.
This
Like,
poor bike is so this poor bike, which is like, yeah, I want to hit it. And I'm like, wee, flowy trail. Okay. What have you been up to, Nathan?
so what? Wow, I didn't even think about what have I been up to. I've been racing my bike on Zwift a lot. Got ready for the TTT last week, and that was a total mess. It felt like I actually, but we won the overall, which I was like really, really surprised by actually last week at the TTT on Thursdays. But and then I raced obviously ZRL, and just besides that, I've been doing, oh, that's right, massive amount of base, and I've had this goal. I got stuck in my head because I'm so competitive and I like always get, so this is my silly brain, okay? This is how I work in training, in shooting for the highest goal I possibly can. I hear that maybe some people in the pro peloton have a 300 some watt like zone 2. And I'm like, well, if I want to be the fastest I can possibly be, I'm going to see if I can do that. And so I've been just doing this zone 2 training. I mean, and it's not like I'm going out and doing zone 3, zone 4 actually. Like I'm actually watching my heart rate and actually paying attention to my legs and actually staying in the highest possible edge of zone 2 I possibly can to train it. And I've gained, so I started in like 240. This is like before the beginning of summer. Like this was like, and I've slowly, I wasn't focusing on zone 2 then, but I slowly got it out to about 250 probably, I think. Now, like I've like the last time I tried this, it was around 260, 270. Over the last 2 weeks, I've gotten now last night with a bunch of zeros and a crash, which was interesting. The 287 last night. And if you look at my Strava, like those heart rate zones are right where they should be, because when you're doing the edge of zone 2, a little bit of, this isn't the coach's corner this week, but a little bit here, you are touching 3 for a second and then you're coming right back under. Like you're never going into it. You're never like staying there, but you can like fluctuate to bring the heart rate to right around that level and come back down. So like I was never over 146 until I decoupled toward the end. So in the last half hour, I definitely was decoupled. It might have been from a lack of sugar, I think. So my heart rate came out a little bit, and I was in that 146 to 150 range, which is just entering my tempo, but I can still talk. I'm actually like fully fine. Like it's not like I'm building lactate or anything. So anyways, that's my zone 2 story. I'm excited about it, but we'll see if it actually gets any gains. Like, cool, you got this. Like, does it actually do anything for you? Like, what is it good? Like, we'll see. But if you braze that level, it's in my opinion that all the boats are going to rise. And when you get there, it feels like you kick a 350s, which is like right around FTP or plus for me. It doesn't feel like a whole lot because you're already right up there with that zone 2. So it's interesting. I want to see what kind of gains come out of it. So that's what
nice. I hit some like workouts again this week, so like more of the sweet spot stuff, and I'm no longer decoupling from my FTP that I raised by 30
really
watts
quick.
The other week.
That was really quick.
Well, I think so. I'm looking at it. I think the thing is like I looked back on my training peaks, and I was probably averaging maybe 4 hours a week on the bike, and now I've jumped to like 10 hours for like the last 3 weeks.
Oh, and perfect timing then. This week is the 3rd week. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like it was week 6 post-surgery, but I was pretty fit leading into surgery, and there wasn't like a whole lot of like there was recovery of just me resting. And so now I'm like, oh, well, I'm getting like some of those gains, and it feels like so good. But I was seeing like some of my comments was because I feel so excited about it. There's like, say 6 sets of something, and I get the first set and I'm like, I'm going to up the bias. I'm feeling great. I'm going to up it. And then I was like, just hold off. See how I'm feeling in like the last half of this. And then it gets to like the last 2 sets, and I'm like on my Twitch channel being like, I want to cry. This is so hard. So
I've upped the bias in an STS. That's my bias up in SST when that was a big mistake. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I can relate to that big time. I've done that many a times where all of a sudden it's like halfway through the second set of intervals and like a longer interval session, because you feel like, oh yeah, especially with those kind of like on the edge workouts where it's zone 3, 4, those ones you can suddenly find yourself, boom, like it just goes out, like the power everything just goes out the window. You're like, what happened? Because you're riding that edge for so long, and it's like it's comfortable enough. You think, oh yeah, this isn't like a sprint or something. I can just keep going, and you get into like a long, and boom, it just can hit you.
I know. And I actually went on and did my first set of sprints last night, which I haven't done in a while. So I do need help with something like. So I'm doing the we've talked about it. So thanks, Nathan. I'm in the drops and I'm using a bit of counterbalance with my arms, which I'd recently worked out at the playground. I did some like push-ups and some like chin-ups and some like tricep work. So I'm doing like my playground workout. So we talked about last week. But my front wheel is just, it's like a bucking bronco. Like it's getting off the thing. I'm like, but you don't.
What are you using for your placement of the front wheel?
So it's just on like a little, like it's whatever came with some trainer. I don't even know what. It's like a little
block. It's like a block. Oh,
a
tiny block. It's like the tax
Wait a sec. Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah, I know what she's talking about. The one, it's like one of those little ones instead of the company that makes the best one that I've used. Now there might be other ones out there. Is the Saris one actually? Yeah, that's that thing. I don't even. Those things are. I don't even know where those things are. Like I don't like. You gotta have the Saris one.
Like jeez. Okay.
You're sponsored by Saris. Come on now. Let's.
Yeah. Okay. I think like. I actually was like,
for those listening to the podcast, we just showed on screen the blocks. So she showed me hers and I showed mine.
So mine's like a tiny flimsy piece of plastic, and Nathan's got like the heavy duty. Okay, I might need to get one of those then, because man, like straight away. It's not like I'm
And then
up
are
and
you on
down. It just
carpet
shifts
or are you
sideways.
on like you have
No,
like a
I'm
mat? You have a
on.
mat though, right? At least, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm
because
on
the
it
mat
like,
will hold that a little bit.
yeah, no, I feel like I've got a sandbag as well on the back of the trainer to like
Mm-hmm.
keep down. And then I need to like, I was like, can I just bolt that wheel down to the ground? But then I was like, I don't know if that'll work.
Your husband's gonna
Like
love
what I
you.
want to do.
What are you doing in there?
I know. And I feel like that's a path I'll never return from. Like, hey, I'm not riding anymore. Why are there holes in the floor? It's like, so anyway, I need to
Hey, quick
find. So
question,
people,
quick thing coming in from Crazy Pants Swifter here. Always up the bias, then I'm too proud to turn it back down when talking
yes,
about. That's such a thing, isn't it? I'm so
that's
the same.
absolutely,
I am so
and
the
that's why
same.
I was crying because I'm like, I should just turn it down, but I can't now because I've committed that I can do this. Okay. Anyway, so if anyone PM me with some good front wheel options because my goal is to get my sprint over 700 watts, and I need something to help that. Yeah.
Good goal. That's a good goal. I'm not going to coaches. That's not coach's corner this week, so I'm leaving that one alone. All right. So
Okay.
ZRL roundup. Which teams impressed? Which riders did well? Well, what really impressed me is if you didn't catch this, M. Nyquist put together this really cool little montage of what it looks like inside of the it's so good. Seriously, like it's one of the best things I've seen all year. I'm not kidding you.
Oh my
Inside
god.
of the Saris
Robot Anna.
no pins. Inside Saris no pins. It's pretty awesome, it seems like. We actually have it over up on the Zwift Community Live as well for for Instagram. But if you want to hear what Anna is like, a little bit.
Sweet, isn't it? Nice headband, by the way. Don't talk too much, Em. You don't need to talk. You need to save your energy. Okay, crank those pedals, pull up the speed, pull up the speed. I want everyone deep breathing and focus on getting the heart rate down. Perfect straight line. You guys are crushing it. Everyone.
This is amazing. So that's Anna. That's Anna during everyone recover on the Gabby train. Then she's like, choo choo, Gabby. Like, seriously, that is one of the best things I've ever seen when it comes to. That's the like quintessential, like the thing that is TTTing and DSing together. And like the way that you say every part of it, because it's like she broke up every part of the TTT in that montage of like all the parts you actually do think about or you actually experience during a TTT. It's like your commentary of what it would be like, but it's the experience of it. I mean, it's great. It's so great. And that's my highlight of the week when it comes to the ZRL by far. It was so awesome.
God, I find it so embarrassing because we're talking about it pre-show. Like it's robot voice. Like when I heard that, I was like, whose voice is that? But it's because while I'm DSing, I'm clicking through, I'm looking at heart rates, I'm looking at the course, I'm looking at where the other teams are. And so there's so much going on in my head that when I talk, it's like robot, up the watts, like get on the Gabby train. It sounds so bizarre. But yeah, it was fun. We had a good day out. Although I did see 2024, like they crushed our category by like a minute 20.
Well,
but I went and had a look.
They showed up with Emily Ehrlich, Kristen Kolchinsky. You've got names in there that are literally winning in real life time trials at the highest level in North America. So, I mean, you've got some super power in there.
So I set a pretty low, fairly low watts on the front because I just didn't know where everyone was at with fitness and what was going on. And so I looked and I was like, okay, well, we were averaging like sort of when I looked at companion results, like just around like 210, like not 210. Yeah, it would have been that each rider with their recoveries as well. 2024 was averaging like 240. So their turns on the front were around 320. So Jen and I had a good chat later because she was like, how did they beat us by so much? I was like, it was just raw watts. So like they were just able to put in these short pulls on the front of like 320 watts. Now, say with like Gabby on our team, she could do that too. But because the team wasn't at Gabby's level, we had to have her do long pulls at lower watts. Because if she went on the front and did a 30-second pull at 320, the whole team would have blown up. Because
and she said she was suffering at the end too after the pull. She had the
I
short
saw
move,
that.
she said.
Yeah, because she was getting on the front, and at the start they were like 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and then near the end she'd like call it. I was like, ooh, she's hurting because that one was like only 45 seconds. So I think it's a like teamwork. Like our teamwork was amazing. Like the straight line, the coming back, it was like perfection. Like I just thought it looked so good, but that still can't outweigh a team that comes in and can ride 50 watts more than you on the front. Like that just is what happens. But I think, yeah, if you get riders, I mean, this is our Team Riot sort of community level, but if we get into Grand Prix, it's like you pick the high raw watt riders who can get on the front, ride 320 to 330 for a short period and then recover. Because the thing is also when you've got short turns on the front, your recovery is shorter. So you've also got to work on that. So yeah, it was a good learning.
That's true. So I want to, on this, the one thing that I think is a takeaway for me and the learnings that I had, because I've only done 2 team time trials now since 4.1. Last week as a warm up on a really, really difficult course that teaches you, it's like jumping into the deep end, not knowing how to swim yet on that New York Astoria Line 8. That was really, really difficult. The ups and the downs through there just made it so that all of the ways you could screw this up were right in your face all the time. Okay. And so that actually gave me almost to the level of like, this is just confusing actually, because there was so much going on that you couldn't, because there's so many people doing so many different things, but at least gave me an eye of like, okay, maybe this isn't the way I thought it was. I have assumptions in my head about PD 4.1 because on paper it says this, but then I get out there and I'm like, oh wait, this is actually happening in this, like whatever, something may be happening. So here's a perfect example. An example of PD 4.1 says roll through is not supposed to be as strong any longer, right? I'm sorry, but we got our team up to 76 kilometers per hour on the downhill consistently or something like that because we did the punch through still. And speed is still king. Speed still rules the day. So like, I didn't notice this until about on the fly, I made a call. Because like, I was like, had the assumption in my head, then I watched how things were working and that actually PD 4.1 takes this, like if you don't push through that speed, it's just better at stopping your avatar. It's not that the roll through speed doesn't come through on a downhill in a TTT now. It's that PD 4.1 is just really good at stopping people who aren't pedaling. And so if you come through with some acceleration, it still does the same thing. And I would argue at this point, actually, I'm wondering if it does it even better because of the CDA reduction on someone who comes through. So all of a sudden, like I started calling out a rotation, and I think we lost a solid 5 seconds because we didn't start doing it until halfway down the opposite side of the petite KOM. And all of a sudden I'm like, and I think everyone was confused about what I was doing because the assumption in everybody's head was like, we're not supposed to, we're just supposed to whatever. And this wasn't part of the plan. And I just called an audible without even saying we were calling an audible. And next thing you know, people started rolling through and bam, we hit the bottom of that downhill at like, it was like 62, 60, like on the flatter sections. And I was able to hold into the 60 kilometers per hour for quite a long time after I finally rolled through and said, I'm taking over. We no longer have a roll through. And so
sorry, by roll through, you mean people are coming from the back, rolling through with momentum, and you just kind of keep doing that?
So you have to, and you have to have, here's how it has to work. At least how I understand it, how it has to work with just how communication between human beings works. Okay. There's only 2 things I could see possibly working here is that individuals are calling out that they're the one that's rolling through the fastest probably right now, that I'm rolling through the fastest and I know that I can go right now because I have the energy, and that someone else might have communicated, I don't have anything. I'm not going to do this. I need rest right now. And that that individual then is going, or you have a DS that sees someone, sees who's where, sees the speed at the moment and says, you roll through now. You roll through now. You come through now. And when I mean roll through, you do have to punch. Like we were going to 6 watts per kilogram or so, maybe 7 to punch. And then the other thing with PD 4.1 is the punishment for not holding a wheel is really high. So there's a lot more tactic or a lot more finessing with sitting on the wheel that you're supposed to have so that the train all stays connected. Because if the train gets disconnected, so if someone's rolling through and they're your wheel, you do have to hold that wheel. It's not hard to hold the wheel, but you do have to push to hold it. And so if you
And
don't,
go ahead. We're talking only downhill.
This is downhills, but there's an advantage to this. So there was one of my teammates on the back end in the flatter sections of the course, after the little village, after the cobbled section. There's a couple little bumps out in that section of course. And on one of the bumps, it was almost another teammate's turn. And I said, hey, you know what to do. He didn't know what to do. I should have said, hey, roll through with your speed. And this is someone who's like really, really, really experienced with this and tends to think ahead of things like this. But on this occasion, he didn't roll through at the speed. He didn't call out, I'm coming through. And I think instead of slowing down the whole group with allowing the person who was at the front to continue at like 5.5 or something like that, he should have came through with his pole at 6 to 6.5, kept all that speed, and we would all just roll right on through. Instead, we all shuffled backwards. It's kind of like a train stopping, and all of a sudden you get that boom, 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 all the way back to the caboose where everything has to slow down a little bit. And you want to eliminate that shuffle of cars slowing down as much as possible now in PD 4.1. I think that's the best analogy, is that the thing you're trying to do is get that freight train going forward at every single moment of speed.
The choo-choo.
Yeah. It's all the trains now. It's all the... Oh, man. Okay, so that's my deep dive on learnings, but it's a little bit of learnings there. I actually also found that, whoa, man, fighting each other is so much worse now. If people don't hold the wheel, holy cow, do I get mad at my teammates now, because you get pushed out bad by anybody who's not staying that straight line, like really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, Emily heard all about it from me because she was dropping back, and I can tell when I've been DSing a while, I can tell her thought process. She'll tell me, Em, if I got this wrong, but I could tell at the beginning there was a edge of panic in her when she took her turn and she went to the back that she wasn't going to get back on. So that edge of panic makes you push a little bit too high to get back on, and you edge up on that person. And so for the first couple of rounds, I was continually like, Em, we will not leave you behind. Like, get on and just relax. Like, because if your mindset just goes into like drop, relax into it, you're fine. But if your mindset is drop, panic that I'm going to get dropped, you edge up onto everybody. So, and then, you see the rider who you're edging up on getting frustrated because then they get pushed out.
And they just got done with a pole too, usually. So,
and all they see is that they've lost the draft of the rider ahead. And so then they're like, oh, what the?
And what they see is their avatar going slightly right or left. And they're like, what the heck's happening here? And then there's frustration and...
and then it has this ripple effect, right? Where that rider gets frustrated. So then they're annoyed. And so that frustration will push Watts inadvertently, because when you're annoyed, you push harder. So then they push the next rider. And like you said, with that train going, it's the same thing. It ends
the other way though, goes the other direction, forward.
It goes the other direction. It's like everyone starts pushing up, and I'm like, oh, that's just from one rider panicking. And Em's coming to chat, so she agrees with me. As soon as she stopped panicking and she went into the line, it was perfect because everyone was where they needed to be. So keep an eye on that if you're a DS. There's a big ripple effect.
It's a big one. It's a really big one. And one other thing on that though too is I do have a little bit of sympathy for the drop and then, because if you're used to the drop and sprint, that's so much more dangerous now. If you can drop and like just slightly, and it's got to be so on the knife's edge of not fighting the last rider and at the same time just slotting in. So there is a pretty big timing factor here where you're slotting in behind the last rider and they're not getting away from you, and knowing the speed of those around you as you try to slot in, because if the whole pack was speeding up, and so how the last rider gets on affects everybody too in a pretty big way, where you've got to be able to really slot in a way that doesn't get you dropped. They don't have to slow down. You also don't have to risk that sprint into then going past them. You can sink and sprint if you can time it where you're stopping your pedaling quick enough that you don't hurt the person in front of you and push them off. But that's very difficult to do now, I've found.
And you'd have to have direct connect and no delay and any of that. And Em brought up a point, which is also something I said to my whole team, is to set their trainer difficulty at 30%. For the TTT. So the reason I say that is because for some of the lighter riders, when you're on that downhill, you'll spin out when the heavier riders were pushing off the front. So you'll end up spinning out because at 100%, it basically takes off all the pressure, right? Whereas at 30%, you can keep pressure on the pedals and still retain momentum. And also on that bit of the course you were saying after the cobbles where it very slightly undulates, if you've got 100%, it's so much more risky that you'll surge the little uphills because you'll feel a resistance add and you'll just push on that resistance and suddenly you're pushing ahead of a rider if you've got sort of a low body weight and your watts per kg go high. So it kind of just evens everything out a little bit as a little
That's a good
tip.
call. It's a good call. I haven't tried that before. I have not tried that. I like your thinking there. Good thinking. So we do have a question coming in that actually pushes us into the next topic around all this, is that how did PD 4.1 go? And that the idea here, what does the new fix of PD4, what's it all about? So thanks a lot, Francisco Zapata. I appreciate you coming in with that over at the YouTube chat. My understanding is there's been a lot of frustration in the community about how the draft within the pack has worked. So one of the things, I actually have a comment up from somebody a few weeks ago where we were praising what was happening in one of the Zwift Community Live ZRL race commentary. And what was really exciting about it was that the breakaways were working. So that part of things was working really well, it seems like. Like there's PD 4.1 has gotten it right, it seems like to me, to allow breakaways to get away, but not necessarily just be insane where like you can't really work on the front and it just feels like you're going through sand. Like they've kind of hit a good happy medium there. But on the other side of things, it seems that some of the ways that it's functioning in the pack to either get that done or to give riders wheels, people were having a hard time figuring out where to be, how to be there, and getting past ride. Like the pack and inside the pack or sitting in a TTT line was just insane, like hard mode essentially. And that's literally when I talked to one of the devs, that was we found a bug. This is on the forums. They found a bug that essentially makes it like it does what it's supposed to do, but it's like freaking hard mode to figure it out and to find out what's going on with it. And so essentially it's a really, really, really too fine of a line to have an expectation without, and I would think without some sort of UI experience, user interface experience that would tell you with signals like what exactly is going on and how to ride that extremely fine line. Without adding that into the game, it seems that it's just it's too much, it's too confusing, or that's happening so often between 50 avatars all interacting with each other that it just doesn't make any sense. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter how much you know if like everybody's talking at once, right? And that's almost what I think is kind of what it feels like, is everyone's just talking at once and you don't know where things are going and why. And so I think that's essentially what I've gotten for what is going on with the bug fix, is that it's going to make things a little easier in the pack and to find the wheels and know where you're supposed to be and how to be there. So that's supposed to be coming out in 1.49 when it gets flipped on. So it's a slow rollout for 1.49 with some of the things that are happening with it. So I'm hearing that probably by next Monday or so it'll be flipped on network side, and we should see some things change before the next ZRL race.
Nice. I have been riding with some pace partners in camera angle 3, which has helped. Trying to like
really?
I know.
Interesting.
I know.
Anna's riding camera angle 3. Oh my goodness.
I know how things have changed, but I have found
using a lot is that in Sauce they have those. For those that don't know what Sauce is, like what the heck? And we know we have some new viewership and some new listeners. Zwift Sauce.
We did an episode on it.
Sauce. Yeah, we did an episode. You can go back and search.
Yeah, go back and have a read of that.
It's essentially an add-on. It's an add-on. I won't go too much into it, but it gives you more information about what's happening with Zwift that a second account is watching. And so they actually have a little rider nearby graphic for the
Mm.
groups that are nearby you and tells you what speed people are going at, what watts the group is doing around you, and like how much distance is between you and those other riders in a live like little graph, like, or not even like a graph, like little representation,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
pretty cool. So that seems kind of helpful. I haven't used it quite yet, but I've watched Gabby use it. I'm like, huh. So I put it up this last time, but I didn't use it too much this last
Maybe
time.
this is how old school I am. The way that I practice PD 4.1 is I go into a pace partner group and I turn off my HUD. So I have no displays anywhere. And just I've changed from camera angle 1 to 3 and like get used to being on riders, and have a feel of the pedals rather than looking at my power. Like be like, okay, what does that feel like? Do I drop?
I think that's a
So
good
I don't know,
idea.
maybe
Like you got to trust your abilities
and
more than something that's
numbers.
telling you what's happening. Like this is what's telling you what's happening, but I see what's happening and I'm experiencing what's happening. And that is always supposed to be the highest level above something that's telling you what's happening.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I actually did a race this week to trial the breakaway, and it kind of you might have tuned into that race. Was it you? Someone did who was chatting to me while I was doing it, and I broke. Yeah, yes, that's it. So I used the hairpin on London and broke away, and I got like boom straight away, like 6 seconds. But they were just leaving me dangling, and then people were like putting in like orange numbers to get up to me. So it was kind of like. I need to get fitter to be able to hold that out the front. But I was like, oh, okay. Well, I can break away pretty easily. So that was good. Good learning.
Oh, 1.49 just went live actually over the last on all OS platforms I'm seeing here, so that's cool. There's the whole post that actually just went out about it. It's mainly fix issues and getting prepped, I think,
new
for
roads?
some of the bigger stuff. I don't think we're gonna see new roads for a while. We do have a little hint about new roads though over on one of our broadcasts that is scheduled. Race number
new roads
5 for Race
coming.
Watopia. They are coming. Yep.
At least by the end of October, because that's when stage 5 of the Tour of Watopia is. So we do have at least they're coming then.
And stage 5 of Race Watopia. So we definitely have that scheduled up with a little big question mark and a present in our thumbnail.
So should we chat? Now I'm
What's up with the gloves? What's with these gloves? Tell me about this public service announcement about gloves.
I'll do a very quick
someone told me that they were criticized about gloves that they thought were pretty cool.
So, yes, and that was Gabby. I criticized her while she was taking a pull on the front in the TTT. So great time to do it because she can't respond. But so the reason is okay, the PSA on gloves, because she came back and said, but they match my kit. Okay. No, they need to match your accessories. So the gloves need to match the socks. So her socks didn't match the kit. So she'd essentially entered in a new whole color scheme, even though it matched a bit of the kit. So accessories must match here. So you go white and blue kit, say yellow socks. You have to wear yellow gloves.
Yeah,
because
okay.
You've entered in another color. So there we go. So that's a PSA on gloves, is that they've got to match the socks. If you're going to do
accessories, always have to match accessories. Now they can match across the whole uniform if they all match together.
Yes.
Just if the accessories don't match the main uniform, then the accessories at least have to match each other.
Exactly.
That's the logical rule.
So,
that is the logical rule. You could actually write that out in logic language, just so you know. I really like it. If this, then that. And not all A's are B's, but some B's are C's.
Exactly. Entering a new color scheme, keep it all together with the accessories. There we go.
Like it. Okay. Good PSA. Just so you know, you will be called out in Zwift from now on if this does not happen. There's actually a code now being written. It will tell you this is not meeting the Anna standard.
Gabby's seen
1.4.9. It's getting rolled out. Anna standard on fashion.
Yeah. I mean, Gabby's joined the team now and she got the first rule straight away, which is if you wear the visor, you're off the team. So there we
go. Whoa. That's intense.
I know.
That's intense. All right.
So can't wear the visor.
This is kind of big actually. The Zwift Grand Prix course book got released and we're going to go over some of the courses and what the formats are, it's really cool. I think some of the stuff that's in here, some of the stuff I'm kind of like, huh, interesting. I'm seeing that Zamita K had done a whole pod on it. So we can also just have people head on over to there and check that out. When did Zamita K get that out there? Is it just in the last 24th or 30?
Yeah. I saw that. I think they've got Kristen Kolchinsky on, and they've literally, like, I think the whole show is this Zwift Grand Prix book, like gone through every single race in detail and stuff. So I think if you want like super like detail over every course and everything, I'd probably head over to Zamuna K. I think we might just pick up on some of the things that we found interesting, should we say that, in the race book. I was kind of more like the general direction, because we are obviously when we come into the season, we can do like more detailed round by rounds, because we can do that in the pod as we lead into each one. But out of this race book, what have you found? Because you're racing. Have you announced that yet?
No, that hasn't been announced.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
We're not saying anything more. That's all we're saying.
Okay.
No more announcements coming from that. But okay.
No,
so
nothing else.
Round one is okay. So the thing that sticks out to me. Okay, so Points Hunter is back, which is interesting. I'm not sure. Like, that was a lot of fun to commentate on. I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about it as a racer. Like that one, like the Points Hunter stuff, is interesting to me in like the high risk, high reward factor. From a racer point of view, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of like for the so the main point that I'm like, ow, this really hurts, is there's 80 starters and there's only 26 scorers, and a bunch of people crossed the finish line who didn't do anything. Like that part for me is kind of like we need more opportunity for everyone in the Points Hunter. That one kind of gets me, and that's going to be on Richmond. What do you think? So there's this, so that's on Richmond. The mountain points race. So there's a mountain points race, which is really, this is kind of cool, but it's on the road to Sky. And like, you're going to like, essentially you're just going to have a bunch of climbers just walk away, and everybody else is just going to look at each other. I feel like
I'm not going to lie. Like, I look at that and I'm like, that's really cool that the first points come at 6.5K. Like, you're racing like Ashley Moolman Passio and Krista Kulczynski. Like, I can't ride 7 watts a kg up road to Sky.
What's happening? So, okay, like, do we just accept that? Here's what I got in my head, okay? Do we just accept that there is an autobus? There's what do they call it? Why am I forgetting this? Chat, help me out. But the group that finishes all together, that it just makes sure they make the time cutoff in the Tour de France. I'm totally blanking here. Gruppetto, thank you. The Gruppetto. Sorry, I don't know why I've just gone. But so do we just accept that? Because in the Tour, you accept that like it's a climber's day and only 10 dudes, 10 gals are going to make that. 5 in the Tour de France. There was only 5 that could make it when they really went. Maybe 6, you know? And so like, that's what's going to happen here. Like,
yeah, I mean, what they've done well here is so they haven't bracketed points into groups. So they haven't gone 1st to 10th is X points, 10th to, you know, like what happens in ZRL. Like there's like the same points allocated to a bucket of people. So 50th and 51st, 50th gets 45 points, 51st gets 43 points. So I would look at this as if I was coming up with a team strategy for this, like I would look at your A-class rider, and I would be saying you need to be aiming for top 10. You know, like you need to be up there with the leaders.
So you are going to end up with, okay, so this is a good point. And it does counter me pretty good right here, that this final hill climb scoring does take this into account, that people are going to be battling all the way through each one of the groups that they're with. Because first at the finish line gets 300 points, 80th at the finish line gets 5 in a descending points cutoffs, right? Now, the bonus points, though, Those are just gonna be.
I've got
Those
the
are gonna
race
be a
here.
battle. Those are gonna be a battle in the fires, and That's what I was getting at. Like those battles, they're really just gonna be amongst the top crowd.
No, I
And
think
no,
there's a
okay,
difference here. No, the only thing I'd say with that is for point number one. It's only for point number one where it's at 6.5K. I don't want to give away too much, but I would say because point number one, you get 150 points, then 75, 50 down to 35 points. It's only for the top 5 riders.
and these are for
And
intermediate points. Just so everybody
yeah,
knows, there's 3 intermediate point spots on the Alpe de Zwift in this second race, the mountain points race.
So that is the same as coming 55th in the race, as if you come 5th in that first point. So that's like pretty good, right? So I would say send a middle rider, a rider who's got like a good 1 minute power and can recover at almost threshold. I would almost send them off and say, you stay with the leaders and you go all in for that first point, and then you can drop back to the gruppetto and finish in the cutoff. But your job is to get, because then you could secure straight off the bat 35 points, which is
How
like
long
could
does it
still
take
work.
to get to 6.5? I wonder. I don't know like what that spot is. You're gonna have to really study where that spot is, because I think they'll get beat by the pure climbers if they don't just drop them right away. Like that person has to go all in. Like, I mean,
So do you know who I'd think for that? Say like you look at our team, like a Megan Rathwell. She could stay with the top climbers to 6.5 and battle for top 5. She probably can't stay with the top climbers to the end of the climb. But you only need to stay there for 6.5K.
I think she has to drop them earlier and make them hurt more out. So what that person's job, so I'm giving way too much away right now, but like, no, seriously, because what's that like? Because this is a great tactic. That person's job is to set the pace so freaking high that it makes everybody who's with them think that this is the pace they're trying to hold to the top, and blow up the riders who are the top riders, while someone who's on your team that's not going for the first across that is sitting in or even backing off a little bit, not going over their effort with a second group or something like that, where these guys and gals who get too excited about that first point try and follow that. And maybe everybody knows that, and you're just going to end up with like a group of people who are going for that first one. I don't know. Like that'll be interesting.
Yeah. And then I think you're correct.
This is interesting, I think, with this at the finish line points being involved. If those weren't there, I'd be like, what?
So yeah. No, the finish points are good. And I think, yeah, you're right. After that first point, it'll just be the top climbers battling it out for intermediaries and then finish. So it's going to be a really hard race.
I think it's going to be. I'm kind of looking forward to it, not necessarily looking forward to it. You know, this comes back to like when I first got on Zwift, I thought I was a climber because I'm a mountain biker, and then I actually met like for real deal European mountain climbers, and I was like, oh, I am not even close to. Well, I'm a good climber, but I'm not that kind of climber. Oh my, there's another level that's just pure. Whoo, see you later. Yeah. So this gonna hurt.
And it's also 100% trainer difficulty locked in for Grand Prix. So
bring your gears.
Yeah, it'd be fun times.
Round 3
time. There we go.
Zwift Racing League. So we don't have to really. I mean, it's just a scratch race. It's Zwift Racing League, as well as London Loop Reverse. I really like that they're putting harder courses in. I feel like London Loop Reverse is a very hard course. I like the point structure there. That's great. Like ZRL points race for the women on round 3, and you're going to be on Glasgow Crit course. That's going to be really hard. It's going to look like a World Championships essentially. What was happening there with the sprints. So that's going to be insane. Great there. That's going to be a ton of fun. Again, round 4, team time trial for the men on Watopia's waistband. And then on the women's side of things, a scratch race on Suki's playground. Ouch. Oh my gosh. Like, woo, these are hard. These are Zwift Grand Prix worthy courses, like with worthy, battles too, like the formats. So those are going to be really tough. Round 5 is another Zwift Grand Prix / Zwift Racing League, and that's just going to be a swap up where it's a points race for the men, and then the women are going to do their on the Muckle Yin. Oh my god!
Awesome. That's a good course though.
It's so good. It's going to see big breaks, huge breaks, and then a time trial for round 5 for the women. They get to do their time trial, and that is going to be on the triple flat loops, which is also a great course for time trialing.
Let's talk a little bit about round 6.
Yeah, that'll be great. This is a
I
big
think
addition. This is the biggest
Yeah.
change up, I think, which I was actually thinking about last night on my ride. Because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
good. I need what I do most of the time for cycling. I like this. Like, this is awesome. So go ahead, bring it in.
Yeah, so the first thing I thought is it's January 11th. Okay, school holidays. Okay, can I rope in the husband to take a day off work for this one? So if I get picked for the team, I can do it because it is I'm just going to round up. It's a 70-kilometer race, 69.7, but 70 kilometers, PRL half, Box Hill climb every lap, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Now this, cool.
There's a time cutoff. There's a time cutoff.
Like this, I just saw this and I went, that's the brutal time cutoff. 5 minutes from the first place rider.
Brutal.
Yeah. But that is, I think this is actually going to create much better racing though, because what tends to happen sometimes with a long course is a group of 10 could get away and then they just jet off and ride really quick and then you kind of got stragglers behind. I think the stragglers will have a lot of motivation to gather back together and push pace. And if they're gathering back together and pushing pace, they're going to push pace on the riders in front who will then start to get worried that they're going to catch again. So it's going to create a much better dynamic here than just sort of having stragglers go off the back and have no motivation to really keep going. Like 5 minutes with a Box Hill climb, I mean, you can lose time on that if people are really pushing. So this is, I like this.
This is gonna create a proper race day with a lot that goes on throughout the entirety of it because you have bonus locations. I think it's every time up Box Hill, right? And so with those bonus locations, 150, 75, 50, 40, 35, and these aren't KOM points separated as its own thing that only people who are part of a KOM competition are going after it. This is real points for the whole team. So this is going to create a lot of tactics, who's going for what, when, like, do I got it? Like, and if I don't, do I save it for a finish line? Like, I mean, there's like so much. And then also, the time cutoff makes it so that if you don't finish, are you getting what's happening there? No points.
No points. So also what I was thinking is if you've got a group of, I don't know, like say up the front, you've got 3 teammates from AO, right? And they're looking behind and they're like, they've got 3 2024 in the pack behind. We're just going to drill it off the front. So that whole pack behind doesn't make time cutoff. Like,
you have huge motivation to then drop more to get more and more time to get them outside that 5 minutes. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, so it'll be group 2. There'll be no group 2 syndrome because they're like, we need to stay in cutoff, and group 1 will be hauling if they've got teammates up there because it's actually more beneficial for them to make the other group miss cutoff than win the race because you could then basically cut a whole team's points. And it doesn't matter if you come third then or fourth to first because you've just knocked out a whole team.
If you get rid of enough of another team. Yeah. So this is going to really bring out the weaknesses in some of the teams in some ways too. I mean, this is going to be, I'm actually really excited about this race specifically.
Yeah.
Now this brings it back old school as well because there have been so many races in London on this specific Box Hill that are races of attrition. So good on Zwift and what they put together here for the Grand Prix on this one. This one is, I want to see more of this, honestly.
Yeah.
From a racer's perspective, I am like, this is amazing. So then we've got a points hunter on Royal Pump 8 after that. And that's that, and then that's it. So that points hunter will be interesting on Royal Pump 8. I'm wondering how that's gonna, the only 2 places we've seen points hunting has been I think we've only really seen it in McCurry so far. So it'll be interesting if it changes things up, having it in Richmond and then having it on Royal Pump 8, Royal Pump Room 8. Sorry. So
and probably another key interesting factor is each team gets start money, so they get $2,500, I'm assuming USD, to just start, and they have to complete round 7 to get the other half of it. But prize money only goes to first place. So first place men and first place women get $10,000, but only first place. I don't like that at all. I've got to say, like, I find it, I don't know, like, I won't pull punches. It just seems like could kind of influence the behavior and make it a bit. I don't think many of these riders are doing this for money, because to be fair, 10,000 isn't like a huge amount anyway across a team for the amount of training you put in. Like if you work it out to like a hourly rate, it's very small. But it just is, money always can influence behavior, and this is a funny way to influence, because it's basically saying it's first place is the key thing here. So hopefully it doesn't demotivate teams who are sitting in fifth and before could have been like, oh, let's make it to fourth. Like now, I don't know. I think it's a bit strange.
So two things I want to say there. Let's take this out of money, like remove money from the idea of what's happening here, right? And because I tried to, like, when I thought about this, I was like, okay, if I'm thinking about this from a, like, what's most fair in play when it comes to competition, that's what we should do, right? And so if you remove the fact that it's money and all the emotional or like higher stakes feelings around it, if you if you get that out of the way, right? And then you just, like, it's just a winner takes all points. Let's just call it points, right? Okay. From there, then we can have a more logical conversation about if it makes sense. If somebody wants to set up a competition that, like, winner takes all, well, that's on them to do that. Now, will that change motivations then for riders who are definitely not going to win? Yes, it will, because they can't get the points that you've maybe award at the end, or whatever it might be. It's a winner takes all situation. And so I think that when it comes to this, I really think that the best thing to do for if I were doing this, and I'm not the one who's in charge, I don't know what the reasons are or anything like that, but fair play to make people, not even fairness, because it's whatever they want to do with rewarding those points. Like, that's the competition. Here's the rules. Okay, fine. Like, but if you want to motivate, there will be consequences to motivation. And, like, we're not doing this for money. That's fine. Like, don't do it for money. Cool, whatever. But we've been placed in a place where there are points that are available. And there are, if I want to, I'm calling it points so that emotional, but there's money. Whatever. It's like, we're put in an arena where it's about that. Now, you can personally, every team can make it not about that. And that's totally fine. Like, not about that at all. I could care less. There's money, there's not money. But when it comes to, there is this thing, whatever it is that's involved, and it's a winners take all situation. And if there are some people who are like, well, we've been put in an arena that it is about these kinds of points that matter these kinds of ways to people. So do I feel good about it being a winners take all? Nah, like, I think that there should be, if we want to create motivation with that, we should create motivation for everyone around that. So that would be my argument around that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the prize money allocation just doesn't really match the rest of the points structure. So it kind of just felt disjointed. If the point structures were like, at the end of the race, there'll be one winner, I'd kind of be like, I don't like that, but they match. Like, cool. We're really, really emphasizing only the winners. Like, don't agree, but great. But this is just a little bit, disjointed. Anyway, that's my only kind of gripe with the prize money.
One other thing on that side of things, though, too, is like, I like it that they put it in there and that it's like out there in public. Like, when it comes to this area, because it is so, it just has this, like, well, things are real now. You know what I mean? Or whatever that is.
Yeah.
I personally really appreciate it when that's just celebrated out loud, very forward with it. When like, at the Lifetime Grand Prix, everybody stands on a podium with a big check in their hand. You know what I mean? Like literally
Yeah.
a big, huge check that says, I won this much money doing this. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like, and you can't really have that moment for now, I don't know, like the Tour de France doesn't do that though. Maybe because they're just crazy amounts of money or something, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, or
Yeah,
maybe there's
true.
different
Yeah.
feelings about that around the world. I don't know too, because like in America, you see a lot more of the big check holding thing happening. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if like in other
Ironman.
parts of the
I
world
know.
where there's not so much of that.
I know Ironman racing. You have all the prize money is listed on the website for like the pros, so you know exactly what you're getting. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean it's good that it's public. So
Yeah, totally.
yay.
Well, okay. Well, that's our thoughts on ZGP. I think, you know, at first I was like, when I first saw some of it, my knee jerk reaction was like, but then like the way that it spread everything, there might be a couple weeks I don't really like, or like I'm doing this because like I want to show up and race for the team or whatever. But like you know, it's kind of like I show up to, I don't know, a road race, and like I kind of like road racing, but I'd rather be racing a mountain bike. But I'll still race it, and I'll race, and I like racing. So
Yeah.
great, let's
Yep.
go. You know, and so there's a couple
Yeah.
ones like that, but I don't think it's a total like like fail or something. Like I think it's pretty cool, actually, good mixture that will be really
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah, it is good. And I mean, if it was a whole race series of races you liked, then it probably wouldn't suit someone else and they might hate them all. So it's kind of it is a good mix. Yeah, there's some that I look at and go, like the Richmond one, I'm like, oh, I don't see any role that I can really play there that much. But other ones are really good. So yeah, overall, thumbs up from me.
Right on. All right, let's go into Coach's Corner with rest and recovery. You know what I like? Your first question, Anna, really kicks off something that's a little bit more of a technical thing that I think that may be a little more novel for people listening to this. That at least something that you can just do to know whether or not
Mm,
you need rest and recovery. Like, well, when
yeah.
should I rest and when should I recover? And you can get objective metrics about this.
Yeah, so I just put this in there because I've actually got this question floating around in my head. So we talked about it earlier on a show with Coach's Corner to do with rest or heart rate and things. The only time I take a big look at my heart rate or actually kind of actively go, that's interesting, is my resting heart rate. And I've just noticed over the past couple of weeks that it is fairly elevated. So my resting heart rate's usually around like 45, 46. And it's kind of like more like 50, 51, 52. And I'm like, is this, but I don't feel bad. I mean, I had a slight virus, but it wasn't terrible. And I'm
That's
sleeping
it.
well.
I'm
I'm
just gonna
eating.
say that's it. That's it
Yeah.
right there.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that.
Well, I was like, yeah, I was like, it's probably that in conjunction with a big jump in training hours. And also in conjunction with, I literally had like 3 weeks where I didn't do anything. So my resting heart rate, I was just resting a lot. So it
Mhm.
probably looked a lot lower. So yeah, I guess like mixture. So it's always kind of the thing where I go, what is that? So I don't feel super unwell, but yeah, there's probably like something still slightly there. And also I'm training a little bit more. And so it's slightly elevated. Now, this is like something I want to keep an eye on. Like if by next week it's still a bit elevated, is probably where I'd reach out to my coach and be like, I don't want to get into like an overtraining thing here because at the moment my psychology to training is so positive that I could be missing some points in my body that it's like I need a little bit more rest here. As much as I want to keep going, I think maybe I could get in a hole. So it's kind
Right.
of just
Yeah.
that's my little pre-warning signal, like the canary in the coal mine of am I overdoing it?
So I take when things so I probably should do it every morning, and it would give me a consistent journal of what is going on with my resting heart rate. When you get out of bed, throw the heart rate monitor on, lay there for a minute or two. You can use apps for it that track it for you. They show you your resting heart rate. There's also ones that'll show you your HRV, etc. and your heart rate variability, because that can be even a bigger uh notice around what's going on with that. You can go research heart rate variability. Essentially, it's just saying that like your heart rate is not actually a consistent thing. It has a variability within its own little cycles that it does, and that the more variability that it has, the better actually, to certain points. And so like if you lose your consistent variability that you've tracked over time and you start getting too consistent. So like when you start going really hard in an interval, your pace, the stress, so stress on the heart causes it to get more consistent and less variable actually. It starts going, okay, something's happening here, and it starts going into that steady, really consistent rhythm and being less variable. So that's why heart rate variability shows that there's less stress happening on your body when you're just laying there, right? And so as the variability, so when your variability comes down from what it usually is, so you get a marker, and that's why anything that has heart rate variability has to check, it has to have some consistent data first, because everybody has a really different variability, just like everyone has a different max heart rate. Everybody has a different resting heart rate, whatever it might be. So if your variability comes down and you're getting a more consistent heart rate, it's like your body's going into an interval in some ways. It's a similar response. It's a stress response that's saying, I'm more consistent right now because I'm working on something. And if your body is working on something more than it's usually working on while you're just sitting around and resting, you know something is up. So that's the variability thing and how that's used. So you can pay attention to that. There's apps out there that there's really good, like not every app is the same. I'll say that as well. And a lot of times you do get what you pay for in these areas. Some people just write up an app so they can make some money. And then other people write up an app because they actually care about the area that they're working in. So do your research, figure out what's going on. But with a lot of this is where the Whoop stuff comes in. This is where all this like tracking of data and stuff comes in. The most basic thing you can do is look for an elevated heart rate though as well. And if you have some consistent data and your heart rate goes outside of, I would say about like 6 to 7 beats, if you start getting over that, then I'd really start paying attention to say, hey, it might be time for a little bit of rest. The other thing on rest and recovery is that the usual is about 3 weeks, especially for beginners when it comes to doing consistent blocks of training with a 4th week of rest. And that 4th week of rest doesn't mean I completely get off the bike or I completely stop working out. It's actually like that's not good for your training to just completely stop. After about 3 or 4 days of just doing nothing, blood volume starts coming down. A lot of the gains that like the immediate gains, like quick gains, not stuff, you can get this stuff back fairly quickly, but it's going to take you some time to get those things back. And when you return to training, you're actually going to be just a little bit behind the ball in the kind of body stresses you can produce on your body by taking complete rest. So like rest isn't necessarily complete rest. That's why a lot of times you see people who are professional athletes, they're like, yeah, it's rest time. And they're out hiking a mountain. Like, you're like, what's going on here? Aren't you supposed to be resting? It's like, well, no, you can do things that are called active recovery. Right, Anna? Anna, you muted yourself, I think, just a heads up.
Sorry, my daughter was crying upstairs. The first point I wanted to say was if you wanted to hear more about the Whoop stuff and all the data, go back and listen to the podcast with Jen Reel that we did probably like 6 months ago, because we went into a huge topic on that with her, and it was really, really insightful, and I really enjoyed that one actually. On the recovery, yeah, like I was actually writing programs last night. So I have 2 different kind of recoveries with athletes. There's the general, so I run on a 4-week sort of rotation of a program. So it'll go 1 out of 4. So if you say they're in base phase, 1 out of 4 is like what I would call that recovery week, where if they were doing an hour and a half session on the trainer, we drop that to 45 minutes. If they were doing an hour and a half easy run, we drop that to 30 to 40 minutes easy. So you still keep the structure of the week.
It's about volume.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And the volume comes back a lot. Now, if it's a build phase, that 1 out of 4 weeks, so you got to 4 out of 4, which is like, I say to them, your focus that week is training. Minimize social activity, minimize everything in that week. It's training, rest, recovery after the sessions, eating well, etc. That is a hard week. Then it's followed by this easy week. In a build phase, it's the less intensity. So if it's a really intense VO2 1-hour workout that they were doing in that hard week, we will maybe keep it to 1 hour, but instead of 5 sets, we'll do 2 sets. So it's still like keeping their routine and keeping the legs ticking over, but the intensity period is a lot smaller. So that's kind of what I do there. So say, for example, for running as well, if they're doing a track session, they might still head to the track, but do 2 800s instead of 6 800s. So something like that. So that's the sort of recovery within a block. And then there's just unstructured recovery. That's what you are talking about with the hiking. So this is where we'd have a key race. After that race, depending on how long, if it's an Ironman, they basically then take 3 to 4 weeks of unstructured recovery. So you can't run literally for 2 weeks. Like, you're not allowed to go run because there's so much stress after an Ironman, and running is quite stressful. But I put things in there like, go do some different stuff, go do Pilates, go kayaking, go hiking, head out on a mountain bike, but you're just keeping it all easy. And that is fully unstructured, and that is for the head as well. Like, you need to get out of a routine, you need to not look at training peaks, you need to just go enjoy nature and being with friends and family.
Can we really put this for people, because I want to differentiate these very well for people, because I think these two things get very confused when it comes to recovery. Okay, because I've heard athletes many times be like, yeah, I just took the week off because it's my recovery week in the middle of a season build. Right? And I'm like, no. And like that, what Anna just explained is like, your next big event is like months down the road. And so you have a whole nother set of cycles that you're going to go through that are 3 to 4 or 5 weeks long, or whatever it might be. Like 3 of those are going to happen yet. And because of that, because you have to be prepared for that, and because you just got done with all this other stress, you're in a unstructured, keeping some sort of like activity in your life, things that are enjoyable. It's not stressful necessarily, because you're not just smashing yourself training, because you're getting ready to go do that again. Right. And so,
go ahead. Yeah. So one is the,
this is like
recovery.
Once a year, maybe twice a year, right?
Yeah,
like that's what we're talking about.
Maybe twice a year if you've got a double peak, but really just kind of once a year. And it goes a reverse way too. Like, people make the mistake of finishing. This always happens with people in New Zealand who do Ironman New Zealand and qualify for Kona. So Ironman New Zealand is March, and you qualify for Kona, and you, instead of taking that unstructured recovery, you instead go, I'm just going to do recovery weeks. I'm just going to keep the same routine that I was doing right leading up to Ironman. I'm just going to, what we talked about before, instead of running an hour and a half, I'll run 45 minutes. And by the time they get near Kona, burnt out. Happens every time. They're completely burnt out. And this is why after that race, even if I have athletes qualify for Kona, I may shorten that unstructured recovery from 3 weeks down to 2 weeks, but you've got to go away. I actually don't even want to talk to you. For our coach-athlete relationship, we need a break. Like, you just go away from it.
I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah. But it's true. Like, you need that, like, mental refresh. And so there's also times where you do need that. But like we said, once, maybe twice a year. The other time, you're still ticking over. You're just lowering the volume.
That was really good. One more thing I want to talk about is priority of gains when it comes to recovery. Okay. And so we talked about marginal gain stuff with like sodium bicarbonate and all that other stuff when it comes to like things you can do race day or in interval high intensity stuff. There's also things that we can do when it comes to recovery. But I'm going to say something here that is very, very important. All the things that you can do for recovery have a prioritization. And if you're taking an ice bath at 11 p.m. instead of sleeping, and you're not on the Nathan sleep schedule, like, the sleep is more important. Like, sleep is literally, I'm not kidding. Sleep is higher priority sometimes. And actually, from most of the literature and experience I have, it's right on. I'm not going to say it's more important. I'm just going to say it's on the same level as whether or not you got your intervals done. Like, it is, that's how important sleep is. Whether or not you're getting your sleep in is massive. And if it's ice bath or a nap that you need, take the nap. Okay. If it's whatever supplement, the sleep is you know what I mean? So the basic things, the sleep, the recovery, then I would say food after that, like what kind of food you're putting in your body, when are you putting it in, if you're getting your post-workout carbohydrates, if you're loading for those things, one things a lot of people don't understand is that fueling is your recovery as well during your workouts, during the intervals. If you're not fueling them, you're not going to be good for the next day. You have to reload that stuff in. And so
Yeah.
that's a big one. And
Can
go
I,
ahead, Anna. Yeah, bring it in, Anna.
I just want to, on what Nathan's saying, so important. And I've read an amazing book that I'll link in the show notes on the podcast. It's about recovery. And she went through she's a sports scientist, an award-winning science journalist, written for a ton of things, but she wrote a book called Good to Go, and it's what the athlete and all of us can learn from the science of recovery. She basically did a meta-analysis of all the research of recovery and found that sleep was like by far above anything else. And things like recovery boots, which I like, are really kind of a lot of placebo. And they're like good because they make you feel good, but they're actually not the heart of recovery. And yeah, it was like exactly what Nathan said, like sleep. So great book if you want to go check it out, because she literally goes through ice baths, heat, everything, like everything people think helps with recovery, and just drills it down to like what actually works.
Sleep. Go to sleep. At the end of the day, she was like, hey, that thing your body just wants to do, it's like good for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I love that.
So Christy Ishwandan, and it's called Good to Go. But yeah, I'll chuck it in the show notes.
I just looked at it. I might actually I didn't know about this book. I might actually get a read of this, because this seems like that sounds like a really cool. She essentially like did the major research on like where my brain goes on like okay, let's just list it all out. Yeah, it's really great. That's really great. So there's a good resource for that, I think. So there's the main three things that I wanted to say about that is like, let's make sure we understand what these two different kinds of recovery that you can have, right? One of them is active within a training block. You're still training. You're just lowering the volume. A little bit of intensity comes off. It's usually for so at the really, really high end level, 3 to 4 days. And like I know at the Pro Tour level, they don't take quite as much time. Their volume won't come down for the whole entirety of the week. And their rest weeks look like 12 hours to 15 hours sometimes. Still, like they're still doing like crazy. But anyway, so, and then there's this opposite thing with not opposite, but just like unstructured. Prioritize your recovery. Sleep's really important. Yeah, and there was one other thing we said in there too, but I think that's good enough though. All right, so let's take a look at the workout of the week. This is Anna's. What's up with the sweaty and satisfied, Anna?
Oh, workout of the week. Sorry, I was sitting here ready to go into the kit choice. Yes, so I used to run a weekly workout session on Zwift a couple of years ago called BAM, which was Badass Moms, and this is a workout from there actually, which I might start sharing. So it's kind of like they're hour-long workouts, and they're hard, and they kind of cover a few things, but I found them a bit of fun as well because there's good recovery, so you do recover from the hard stuff. So this one starts off with a nice progressive warm-up, then goes into 5 by 1 minute in the yellow color zone, so sort of that zone 3 thresholdy FTP type area. So it shouldn't be like too hard. It's like good pressure on the pedals, uncomfortable, but not, crazy, with a 1 minute rest in between. But then it goes into what is quite a hard set, which is it's 15 minutes long, but it's 5 by 2 minutes. So it's a longer interval and it's a bit harder. So it's gone more into the lower red zone of zone 4. I wouldn't say this is quite yet VO2, but it's going to hurt. Like it could be a failure set for you, depending on where you're at with your training. I would not be doing this in base. Like it would be almost unachievable. Sort of like a build phase type of workout. And you've got a short recovery in between. So 1 minute halftime recovery. Then you take a big long rest, and then you hit 5, it might be longer actually, maybe 8 15-second sprints to failure with some good rest in between.
This is a great workout. This hits every zone that's 4 or up in some sort of beneficial, meaningful way. I really, really like this. And it's upping, it's like an upward pyramid on the intensity all the way to the end.
Yeah.
So I like it.
So if you're getting ready for some ZRL stuff, probably round 2 now that we've stopped all the sprinting for a lot of this round. But next round, those last 8 sprints with sort of not heaps of recovery on fatigued legs is a great way to get used to sprinting on fatigue. Because it's all well and good to do like a sprint and then have 3 minutes rest and then do it again. I see why you would do that. But this is really like everything is under fatigue. So it's kind of that ZRL race prep kind of a workout.
Right on. Loving it. Go check it out. I will get this uploaded to. Are we going to have a ZW on this? We got one?
I sent it.
So.
Sent it to you.
Okay.
It's on your Facebook chat.
Okay, it's on my Facebook.
There we go.
Okay, got it. So we'll have a ZWO loaded up for workout of the week for Sweaty and Satisfied over on ZwiftCommunityLive.com. So go check that out on the podcast tab at ZwiftCommunityLive.com. And you'll be able to download that. Well, thank you so much, Anna. It's so awesome that you put together. And here we go. This is the coolest freaking kit on Zwift right now. I love this kit. Drafting dinos. I can't talk about it enough, honestly. We talked about it a lot during ZRL because we saw it for the first time during a race broadcast. Look at the purple socks alongside of that. What? It's almost like it was made for it. This is so good. I mean, is this almost glitch kit level? I mean, it can't be. It can't be glitch kit, but it's right there.
Yeah, I'm just actually typing it onto the Drafting Dinos Facebook page because I just saw it got released like only a couple of weeks ago. And I've linked them to the pod so that they can see it being like shit. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like, so Gabby sent it through. Now, for those listening, it's all my favorite colors of blue. It's like a darkish navy blue with this aquamarine blue going into like a royal blue with this like crazy, as if they've thrown like a hot pink paint can at the top left shoulder and it just splays across with a dinosaur on a bike riding above the pockets. And then they've paired it with, which they've done well, and I'd have to know if they've done this on purpose, is the Zwift Academy, I think 2022 socks really match the kit well with all the blues coming through. So like phenomenal. I mean, I would give this a 9.8 on this kit.
Oh man. All right, I'll give it a 9.5. I don't know. 9.8 is like glitch kit level. I don't know. Like that's right. But no, this is one of the best kits I've ever seen, hands down. Color scheme, everything about it. It's got a dinosaur on it. It doesn't get a 9.8 out of me because it's not a raptor. It's not my, like, I want to, like, the T-Rex. The only thing I would want is, like, maybe, I don't even want to say this because I don't even want people to think it because I want people to look at this and just be like, this is amazing. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know, everybody kind of, like, knows T-Rex, so maybe it's good that you have the T-Rex on there, but, like, I was a real dinosaur nerd as a kid, so I'm kind of like, well, T-Rex, everybody knows T-Rex. Put something else like a raptor or I don't know. Like,
Velociraptor. I like that, Velociraptor.
There we go. So that's the pick of the week. Let us know what you think, everybody. Like, I think it's awesome. I think it's so good. So good. So really cool. Nice job by the dinos. And they're also one of the coolest teams out there, too. They are so committed to TTT. They've been around the communities for so long, the dinos, and it's cool to see them get that kit in game and really be celebrated.
Shout out too that they do a weekend banded ride, so they do it on looks like Sundays. Saturday this weekend, 9 a.m. BST and 2 o'clock.
Do you know what the tag is? Because that's really easy to find actually if they know what the tag is.
Yeah, I think just go to they've got an open Facebook page. So just search Drafting Dinos on Facebook and they've got all their they've got like a open group that you can go on and see when all their rides are.
They also have a recon ride, a group recon ride tomorrow at 18:30. So it's 6:30 p.m. my time. Tomorrow there's a recon ride going on for the Drafting Dinos, it looks like. So
cool. That's good for the USA riders. So yeah 7:30 EDT. Probably a good American one.
Right on. So yep.
Perfect.
Check them out. Check them out, everybody. Drafting Dinos, they're pretty awesome. All right. So what are you doing for the next week?
Well, I was supposed to be doing this 100K gravel race tomorrow, but they've had to postpone it because there's like this crazy storm coming through. So I will be here this weekend.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess
like a hurricane?
Thunder and like a cyclone, which would be here.
Wait. What? Wait.
Yeah, we don't.
You don't
oh my gosh, have we not talked about those? We
Oh
don't
yeah,
have
because it goes the other
hurricanes.
way. It goes the other way.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
an
Which are
actual scientific
called,
definition. I forgot about
yeah.
that. Yep.
So we're called cyclones. We have cyclones. No, it's not a cyclone, but just like so much rain and stuff that they were like, it's just going to be such a shit show.
Mess. Yeah, just a mess.
Yeah.
Especially a gravel race.
Yeah.
You'll end up like they
Yeah.
had it Unbound this past. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it goes through private land, and I'm sure they don't want their land all chewed up by bikes. So I will be KOM hunting with my husband instead. So we're going to go
Nice.
local, and he's going to pick a whole bunch of QOMs for me, and he's going to do what he did
How
last
is this?
time. And
We're
go.
like on the same schedule. What the heck? We're doing the same kind of
Nice.
thing. I think we're doing something similar. Now, the reason being is that Gabby has to do her testing.
The Zada testing.
The Zada
Yeah,
testing
that's
stuff.
it.
So she's going and doing, and then I have to do some too. So she likes to do them on segments because there's like a way more motivation, right? So
Yeah,
she's like
that's what I'm
been
doing.
mapping out 1, 5, like all the time. She's looking for these
Perfect.
segments that are just those long, and she's got routes that go after one of each. And there'll be like different ones on different days because like trying to do your, I don't know, 12 or whatever on the same day you're doing another one is a lot. So, anyways,
Yeah,
that's
I like
probably
that.
happening. Pretty cool. So that's what I think I'm gonna be up to, and plus my goal of a higher zone 2. I'm just like, that's my just zone 2 as high as we can get it. I'm bragging. My last Strava said 13 watts. Just 13 more watts. We're gonna get there. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been live on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure to hit those follow buttons, like, subscribe, comment, because it helps the channel out a ton. You can also find this over at ZwiftCommunityLive.com. If you haven't noticed, we've been pushing that website a ton because it's got content over there for you, everything that is ZCL. So head on over there. You can find the podcast there, the workout of the week, write-ups on ZRL, as well as what broadcasts are coming up. We will see you next week, kicking off with the Z Racing Series, ZRL, and then SCR. And we'll be back at the podcast for episode number 64 next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you maybe on Zwift over the weekend, otherwise next week for the Z Racing Series. From Anna and I, thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, ride on.